If we're going to survive as a united country, don't we have to learn to speak to each other again, even if it's in disagreement? The dictators in Canada, for example, didn't want to listen to their people. Instead, they released jackbooted thugs to beat peaceful protesters, to trample them on horseback, and to freeze their money so they had to choose between survival or free speech. I say that's wrong. I say that's inhuman. I say real Americans who value free speech should condemn totalitarian governments no matter where they exist. And Americans should all be united in that condemnation, but we're not. And some on the left are starting to notice this. Bill Maher isn't woke, but awake. We support the remaining few Democrats who want to be Americans in tonight's preamble. As you know, I've been angered and shocked to find that 65% of Democrats support Canada's dictator and his evil crackdown on his people. In so doing, these Democrats have sent a clear signal that they no longer wish to be Americans, rejecting our First Amendment rights of peaceful protest, the right to petition our government for redress of grievances, and free speech. One of the guys on the left who has taken notice of the crazy people who now dominate his side of the ledger is Bill Maher. Bill has taken to calling out the woke people on the American left. He plays them off as a fringe minority. Now, I'm not sure if he believes that or if he's playing dumb to keep left-wing thought and ideology somehow viable in the minds of the majority of sane people in this country. But Maher has noticed something else. This country is close to ripping itself apart because the left no longer wishes to live under the Constitution. So on his show over the weekend, Maher used Trump bashing to make a plea to Democrats. I believe the plea was designed to get them to not abandon being Americans. Watch.
October 2020, 54% of Republicans said they were more loyal to Trump than the party, and only 38% chose the party over Trump. Well, now those numbers have essentially flipped. Okay, this can't all be coming from the raw animal magnetism of Mitch McConnell.
Okay. So Maher says that because Trump's supporters, they allegedly are waning or going away from him, now's the perfect time for socialists and Democrats to mend fences with Republicans.
Trump's poll numbers are falling like a rock. Democrats must realize that the way to get his voters back is through graciousness. Yeah. A rare opportunity is presenting itself these days for America to return to the more normal time before we had Trump, because finally there are signs that the Trump fever is starting to break. Attendance is down at his rallies, and his press release brain farts don't make news like they once did with the tweets.
Graciousness from Democrats? That's a tall order, Bill. What Maher fails to recognize is that Democrats don't believe in debate or understanding or anything resembling graciousness. They believe in force. Believe what I tell you or you get canceled. That is the mantra and the mindset of the American left. Maher himself has been a victim of this. He's not woke enough for them, so they want to shut him up. Maher should remember it was conservatives and Trump supporters who defended his right of free speech. It was I, your liberty-loving Latino, who didn't want Whoopi Goldberg suspended or fired after her anti-Semitic comments. We didn't call for Joyless Behar to be fired after she openly worried about her vacation plans being disrupted because Vladimir Putin was slaughtering Ukrainians. I think Maher, whether he'll admit it or not, is looking at the left and noticing that he and liberals like Glenn Greenwald are now the minorities. He recognizes that, some dangerously stupid people are now running the show on his side of the ideological divide. I also think he's looking at the polls and noticing that Americans are not going to vote for anti-Americans anymore, and he's panicking.
The Democrats' own committee responsible for getting Democrats elected this November is telling their candidates you are losing because you come off as preachy and judgmental. So sure, the temptation will be to humiliate Republican voters who are now finally coming to their senses about Trump, to shame them, call them deplorable, and say, what were you thinking, you stupid?
To be clear, he's telling Democrats not to bash those who supported Trump. He's telling Democrats to allow Republicans an off-ramp so we can all learn to talk to one another again.
Look, we've all had a friend who's dated a psycho. And when they come to their senses, the last thing they want to talk about is how they dated a psycho. It took Trump voters a long time to make it all the way down the MAGA rabbit hole. To jump on them the second they poked their head out would ensure many more years of political winter. Little things that'll make them think, hey, maybe Democrats don't all eat babies. Provide a face-saving path for them to become traditional indoor Republicans again.
You all see what he's doing, right? Well, don't get me wrong, Bill Maher hates Donald Trump. And even after all the suffering this country has endured at the hands of the left-wing extremists, Bill can't bring himself to be as tough on his side as I am on Republicans, for example. If you don't see where he's going yet, this might clear it up for you.
Like the greatest Republican of all, Abraham Lincoln did when he said after the Civil War, with malice toward none, with charity for all. When Lincoln defeated the South, he didn't dance on their graves. When he visited the front lines near the end of the war, he comforted the wounded on both sides. He didn't humiliate them. He told his generals, let them go home. Let them have their horses to plow with and their guns to shoot crows.
Okay, so Maher's premise is this. If you supported Trump, you're a screw-up, but Democrats should, in the interest of national harmony, not hold it against you and start having conversations with you again. I think Maher sees where the left is taking this country. And his own way, in his own way, he's looking to get back to the old days when we could all disagree without being disagreeable. I think Maher recognizes that his side is sowing the divisions of civil war. And if they don't turn around, the entire American experiment will be lost. And not that Bill wants to talk to your liberty-loving Latino here. You know, we've asked. But we do know that Bill and conservatives like Ann Coulter, they're good friends. And then maybe Bill would like to get back to having robust debates again. But after those debates, he'd like to go out, knock back a cold one with his conservative pals without AOC and Rashida M.F. Tlaib waiting in the bushes to start a cancel Bill Maher campaign. One final note to Mr. Maher. I agree with you. If the country is to survive, we're going to have to learn to speak a common language again. I suggest the Constitution as that foundation. But after nearly a year and a half under socialist rule, America has descended to depths I never imagined. The left has attacked our police while going soft on criminals and cutthroats. Gas prices are through the roof, as are the prices of everything else. Wages are nowhere near keeping up with hyperinflation. The store shelves are bare. America's government has abandoned its own people overseas. We are the laughing stock of the planet. Tyranny is on the march and freedom is in retreat because there's nobody defending it. Government is locking down, cracking down, still losing control of the pandemic. Our borders are wide open, welcoming in millions of illegal aliens a year against the law and the will of the American people. So at the end of the day, it won't be we Trump supporters begging for forgiveness. It'll be you guys on the left and the never-Trumpers who did this to us, who will be begging for forgiveness. And knowing we conservatives, being God-centered and all, will likely be gracious, not for the sake of you leftists, but for the sake of the United States of America, ensuring that this last best hope of mankind will not vanish from the face of the earth.